drunk uncles at Thanksgiving, and kitten litter boxes. What are two things you should probably never take anything from? Both of those, either advice or anything else. So we're gonna jump into why some houses sell faster in Olympia and why some of them don't, without giving you any, no pun intended, stinky advice.
We're Joe and Charity, local realtors here in the South Puget Sound area of Western Washington, and we help people just like you every week who are thinking about moving to the area.
First thing to know is that year-over-year appreciation is about 3.5% here in the Olympia area. So you might hear national news talk about the market is crashing, these are terrible places, worst time in the world to buy. Well, in some markets that might be true, I don't know. But I know here in the Olympia market, it actually is pretty good market. And there's reasons if something does sit on the market for quite a while, there's some very good reasons for that. But to assume that it's based upon a depreciating market or our homes are just dropping and falling off the map, that's actually not an accurate assessment based upon the data. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why either a house is going to be hot or cold. Cold meaning it isn't moving, or hot, you're like, wow, that went off the first weekend. What gives?
So let's talk about number 1 in the cold group. And this is classic. It's overpriced.
There is a strategy that used to happen years ago, which was, let me price my home high, and they're going to wait for an offer to come in and negotiate somewhere in the middle. However, in our market today, in Olympia, that is really a bad strategy because that high price causes people just to keep moving on and keep looking. So that home sits on the market for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month and a half, 2 months, and people are wondering, why is no one even offering? Well, that type of strategy just doesn't work anymore. Matter of fact, a lot of times people assume that this is what's called aspirational buying, aspirational selling, what we hope it would sell for, but in reality, it's not even going to come close to that, and buyers just move on. They're not interested, and they'll go after other homes, and then the doom loop happens for that seller. They have to lower the price again, lower the price again to get interest in it, and by the time they finally do sell it, it's below what they could have if they would have just marketed it right to begin with.
That's a great point, and it actually goes directly into our next point. And this type of house sits in that cold section because people have priced it as if they've done a lot of upgrades, but they didn't. So when buyers are comparing this listing that might be in the same neighborhood with another listing that's at a similar price, but they can clearly see on the photos that this other house has a new kitchen and this one has an old kitchen with Formica counters or classic 80s oak cabinets, they know the difference. Buyers are really smart. So you have to price your home according to the condition and also according to the upgrades that you have or have not done.
Many times we see homeowners that they've done things, and we've done as well. We've made the home comfortable for us. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be comfortable for someone else. So the upgrades that we've done that appreciate, that we utilize and capitalize on, doesn't necessarily translate into that next buyer.
So be aware that you have to look through the buyer's eyes. And just because the home is the way that you've liked it and you've lived in it, that doesn't mean that's what the buyers are looking for. In fact, buyers, because their affordability is much less right now with the interest rates being higher, they are very particular about what they're looking for, and they are counting the costs of putting in a new kitchen or updating countertops or putting in new floors or redoing the yard. So when they look at a house that looks like it's priced as if those things were done, but they're not actually done, they move on to another house.
The third type of home that is sitting in the cold zone is one that has poor presentation. Now, I just saw one a couple weeks ago, and somebody, bless their heart, had done a fantastic job with paint and how it looked. However, those paint and how it looked was very strong personal preference. And what I mean by that, unless you are a big fan of purple, you're not going to like this house at all. Now, the previous homeowners loved it, and it was in good condition and upgrades were done, but it was so hard to get past that it just didn't present itself well, and people just kept moving on.
You know, it's fascinating that some people actually can't envision something that they don't see in front of them. I didn't know that until a couple years ago. So we want a house to look like what somebody can envision living in right when they look at it, in the photos, when they walk in person. And that has to do with curb appeal. First of all, you've heard that, and it is really important. When a house looks adorable, people are really charmed by it. So you want to charm the buyers. So curb appeal is really important. And then what they see when they first walk into the house, if you've got shoes hanging out over there and coats hanging out over there and, you know, the dog stuff all over the place, that's not appealing to people. They want it to look like they could move in. They want it to look clean, which is also very important in presentation. And you want buyers to walk in and have that feeling. You want to give off that homey feeling. So bake some cookies and clean up the house and make sure that everything is in place. Now, staging takes it up to another level. And if you have questions about whether or not it'll be important to stage your home, that's something that you can ask us about, and we're happy to give you an evaluation.
Now, not only does poor presentation keep homes in the cold, this next one does even a little bit more, and that is pricing it wrong for its location. When a home comes onto the market in the right price, location, condition, it is going to sell. However, that location could be blocks away from another location of similar house and have thousands of dollars of differences. And you can think to yourself, well, why is that? Especially if you're bringing your home to a market and you're like, well, 3 blocks away, this house sold for $600,000. Surely mine's going to sell for the same. And they might be in a different school district. They might be in a different location to some very meaningful amenities. They might be in a different condition with they have a view over the water, or yours doesn't have a view. Oh, that's not that big of a deal. Actually, all of those details can make a big impact to whether a home sits in the cold or actually warms up quite a bit.
So we're still in the freezer. We're going to talk about one more type of home that's in that cold zone, and this is sellers who aren't flexible. If you are a seller, you want to get top dollar for your home. You want somebody to promise you that they're going to deliver that top dollar. When we have an appointment with sellers, we are always very realistic about the market. We don't want anybody to choose us because we promise them a price that really isn't doable. And we want sellers to understand that flexibility is really key right now in this market.
It's very interesting. We've gone into lots of listing appointments, and sometimes we've lost a listing to another agent. And the whole reason we lost is because the agent told them, we could get this much out of it. We'll track those homes to see if they are accurate, and we find most times that actually is not true. It sits on the market, they have a price reduction, and we could always see what the home ultimately sold for. And usually it's below what we told them if we would have priced it right to begin with. So it's one of those things we want you to be aware that is a strategy sometimes agents use. They overpromise just to get the listing. We just don't want to do that to you because it's a waste of your time, energy, money, and 6 months of frustration is not worth it. So be flexible, understanding that we're going to come or someone else is going to come and they're going to give you what we believe somebody in this market's going to pay for your home in the price, location, condition. But that lack of flexibility will sometimes really be painful and cause you to ultimately not sell the home for anywhere close to what you could have.
Yeah, another point that's important to know about flexibility is that buyers are going to be asking for things in this current market. They are going to be asking for closing costs to be paid. They may offer you less than you listed it for, even if you did a price reduction. And buyers may also ask you to repair things that you think aren't necessarily in need of repair. But flexibility is going to get your home sold. It's not a seller's market right now. It's not a buyer's market right now. It's very dependent on how you list your home and considering the factors that we have talked about.
All right, well, let's shake off the cold and let's talk about the warm things. What is helping homes sell for top dollar in today's market? So let's jump into the first thing, and that is true move-in ready homes. Picture this, you're driving up to their home, you look at it, it's got a nice little cute curb appeal, you open the doors, everything's clean. There might be some things that you'd want to have a little bit different, maybe a wall painted here or wall painted there, but in reality, you're like, I could just kind of move in and we'll get to that later. Now we're talking. That type of home where somebody can envision themselves not having to do anything, but just move in is what buyers are currently looking for. They don't want to hassle. They want to be able to move in and move on with their life.
All right, it's getting hot in here, so let's keep moving on to those hot homes that are selling. And this one is homes that are priced correctly.
Yeah.
You heard us talk about that when we were talking about the cold homes, but it is so important. Price your home correctly. Now, as Joe mentioned before, we do a really thorough job looking at the comps and coming up with a price that looks like your home is going to sell for. We are going to give you a range, and ultimately it is a partnership in pricing that home. We are not going to tell you how to price your home. We're not going to tell you the number to price your home, but we're going to give you the wisdom so that you can make a good decision. And ultimately, if you make the decision to price on the lower end of the spectrum, it's going to go better for you. Even in those situations, buyers can still be surprised that it may take a little bit longer than the first weekend to sell or the first couple weekends to sell. But for sure, if you're pricing it on that high end of the spectrum, you are going to be waiting and you're going to be dropping your price.
So as we keep getting warmer, it's not just that it's priced correctly, and it's not just that it's move-in ready, it has delightful curb appeal. And what I mean by that is when you drive up to the home, we want people to say, ooh, I would like to live there. Now, that doesn't mean that it's this massive estate overlooking the water, which is perfect in every way, because every buyer has a different set of expectations of what they're looking for at a certain price point. So at a $400,000 price point, there's an expectation set of what it should look like for that. A $600,000 price point has a different expectation. An $800,000, $1 million, all of those buyers have a different set of expectations and a different lens that they're looking through. So when we price homes with clients, we want to make sure that everything looks right right for the buyer that we already know is going to be looking for this house. The great thing is we have a team, we have lots of conversations about different buyers, and so we're always dealing with 30, 40, 50 buyers on any given month. And because of that, we have a lot of insider information of what the lens that they're looking for actually is. So that's another big reason. Make sure it looks right for the buyers at your price point. And if you have questions about that, for sure, give us a call. We'd love to be able to help you out to make sure that you do get that top dollar for your home.
All right, we're keeping it hot. The next type of home that is really warm in this market are sellers that are flexible. That's right. They are flexible and they are willing to negotiate. You gotta be willing to negotiate. You can't just set that price, set it and forget it. Can't do it. You gotta be ready. Like we mentioned before, you gotta be ready. You may end up paying some closing costs. You may end up offering to make some repairs that you thought were unnecessary. You may end up buying down some interest rate points for the buyer so they can actually afford your house. I know that sounds like you shouldn't have to do it, but in this market, if you're flexible, yours is going to be the house that sells faster than the unflexible neighbor who's also trying to sell her house.
Recently, some of my buyers, we went into a situation where under contract and we were really asking for just a few small things. Matter of fact, one of the things we're asking for was the replacement of a 30-year-old hot water heater. And the seller did not want to do anything. And this was so off-putting to my young clients. They were doing their best to get into this home. They were willing to take on some other deferred maintenance, really great buyers. But the seller was like, no, it's working for us. And so we don't want to do anything. And I'm thinking to myself, it had rust on the bottom of it. You're just waiting for an insurance claim. However, they didn't want to, so we backed out. And it was really over something small. So I would just encourage you, some of those things might feel like, well, they're asking for a lot. A lot of times it's not a big deal. It may only be a couple $1,000s worth of deferred maintenance that gets taken care of, but those couple $1,000s could be the difference between having your home sold or continue to sit on the market.
So let's just jump back into the hot homes that are selling. And this one is homes that are unique in the right way. You know, you've heard us talk about unique homes in the wrong way before, and those do not sell because it's something very quirky that somebody thought was a beautiful idea. However, if it's a unique home that people have been waiting for, then it's likely to sell quickly. For example, a uniquely wooded lot, maybe something that backs up to green space. So even though they don't have to pay taxes on a lot of acreage, it looks like they have a lot of acreage and there's no neighbors behind them.
It could be that quintessential mid-century home, or maybe something that's Northwest modern, or a Victorian, or a nice old Rambler charmer. There's so many things that make homes unique for potential buyers. One thing that they all share that stay in the hot market, they look like they've been professionally done. The thing that kills it at this place, unique to you, can be wonderful as long as it was done correctly. This is the hot and cold in a hurry, is when these things have been done uniquely, but uniquely bad versus uniquely charming for the next buyer.
If you don't have one of these uniquely charming homes, then you can't do anything about it necessarily, but there are those who are out there that definitely have those hot homes because they just happen to have a beautiful, charming home.
So this is why we do not listen to drunk uncles at Thanksgiving about selling your home. And because it is a hot market for some, and it is a cold market for others for very good reasons. And if you have more questions about this, feel free to reach out to us on the number below or in the link below. Jump on our calendar. We'd love to help you make an informed decision about selling your home and getting top dollar for it.
And if you found this video helpful, then definitely keep watching because the next one you're going to find out why Olympia is Washington's best kept secret.